That's not correct. Yep, that's me. Zero cash, no garage, and banned from all dealers except Joe's Smash Rollers. Now, you might ask, Strix, you do not have access to cars in a car game. How are you even going to play? The answer to that lies in BeamNG's original career mode. Apparently, you can just challenge some of them with provided cars right off the bat. So, I used that to raise some funds. My first challenge was to take this Corvette through the simple layout 3 times as fast as I could. And as I was driving it, I felt the understeer. Typical to front-wheel drive cars, as the front wheels has to do all the work. But still, that means it is me that should adapt to this typical vehicle by braking early, take corners slower, and... That is someone else's car, man! This car belongs to someone else, and I had turned it into a 3-wheeler! And after all that hard work, 2 stars. Not optimal, but that would do. Then, I went and tried the logistics part, where this time, the cargo is the truck itself. While both cars are quite problematic performance-wise, I found myself enjoying driving the truck more. See, this truck suffers from oversteer instead. Look at how I'm absolutely sending this thing everywhere. With the car's handling being nearer to my comfort zone, I got 2 stars. On hindsight, too much understeer and oversteer is just as bad, as in the ideal world, the car should be cornering in a smooth and balanced manner. Well, these friendly tests are not the only source of income you can use without any cars. On BeamNG's sanctioned street racing discipline, you can challenge some events with the cars they'll provide. You don't have to drive to the location either, making these events completely accessible to people with no cars. Apparently, this event had put me back in the Corvette, the same one as the car I used on the time trial. Surely, I would have learned from my mistakes and adjusted better to the car. And I have rear-ended the other guy's car. Brushing that aside, I managed to make the proper overtakes on the 90-degree corners and made it to the first place. From there, I was virtually unchallenged. Also by the muscle car, which should have me dead to rights on the straights, but I suppose its driver has no idea on how to use that much power. So, with some money in the pocket, I called up a cab to the Chinatown as a prospect for his garage. After a short drive, I had arrived at the destination and was greeted by this obnoxiously high price for a fully functional garage with space for 2 cars. There has to be an alternative, I wondered, and figured the Chinatown Overflow could be a good replacement, considering it was only 60% of the price and could also hold 2 cars. With how obviously I cannot afford these properties outright, I opted for a lease. Now, I have a place to store my first car. However, the lease payment had left quite a dent on my wallet, so I headed to the drag races to gain quick cash. Now, with enough money in hand, I hailed a cab and go to the only dealership that will still accept me. With some complications. I think you missed a stop? Hello? Let me out! Hey! In the dealership, I spotted some interesting chassis for dirt cheap. Mainly the Lansdale and the Pacima. For someone that is still broke, the minivan would make more sense. But every fiber of my being refused to start out in one of those. So, I inspected the Pacima, and after noticing an entire engine unit within the car, tried to have a test drive, only for the car to not move an inch. So, instead of wasting my time, I haggled with the dealership, which offended the seller, but he still agreed to lower his prices. After that, in a car that only has an intact engine unit, I hauled us both back to the Overflow. Now, my current understanding was every garage functioned the same, in where I can maintain and add parts to my cars. The Overflow shattered this misguided concept. See, it turns out there was a reason why the Chinatown garage was more expensive. It's because in there, you can actually order and install parts for your car. Meanwhile, the Overflow is purely a storage point. This had dragged my finances into a worrying situation. So, I went to the bank and applied a big loan and hauled back to the tuning tent, which has even less functions than the Overflow. With little to no choice but to haul back to the Chinatown garage, I did just that. So, in need for an immediate boost, I applied for a huge loan from the bank, fully knowing paying this off will be a nightmare and a half for future streaks. I immediately leased the correct garage and thought to have the car delivered to my person in this very garage so the rebuilding process can begin. And after a hefty sum of paying the car and all of its transportation needs, I started building the car. And before we knew it, the car was not built. I am knee-deep in debt, and this car was supposed to be my savior, yet here it is, refusing to move. Is this it? Is my career over before it even began? I diagnosed the car and found that I had not installed a fuel tank in it. Rookie mistake, I know. Yes! Yes! It runs! The second Despacima was functional, I rushed towards the racetrack. This might be the only thing that could save my career from death on arrival. On the way here, I had to deal with the local law enforcement, which was not happy seeing this frame of a car hauling away on twice the speed limit. So, through expert level driving, I weaved through unscathed and made it to the starting line. Around the 200-meter mark, my brakes flared as high-spirited driving was never their purpose. I took the car to the right and engaged in a short course for faster lap times. And as much as I had feared, this car is also front-wheel drive, meaning I have to get used to the inherent understeer this car has. Couple that and the fact that this thing is still rocking all tires, the only thing I could think of that could alleviate some of the understeer would be the weight. Guess leaving the car with no body panels was a blessing after all. While I was hauling through the layout, I had apparently missed the payment because I was too broke. Now, with one of my loans having increased interest, I must get this car to the finish line as soon as possible. In what seemed to be the corkscrew from Laguna Seca, I threw the car around the best I could, controlled my throttle on the downward path, and smoothly made it across. Completing the first lap on the first time had awarded me $2,000. Now, this event pays more if you score best laps, but how do you do that on every single lap? Well, that's the neat part. You don't. Scoring consistent best laps is not the money maker here. It's a hot lap multiplier. More laps you get in a single session, the higher it becomes. So, I went at it for 20 whole laps, racing against time to score at least 3 laps before collection deadline arrived. So far, so good. I no longer miss payments and my wallet is slowly healing, and after 9 laps, I can see general improvements into my lap times, as well as the health of my wallet. With each lap, I became more familiarized with the specific layout, driving me towards complete mastery, 1 lap at a time. After 16 laps, I was so used to this track, it was recorded onto my subconsciousness. The only thing that was preventing me from going even harder was the car itself. It was suffering from great understeer, the brakes kept fading and overheating, and the car in general doesn't have that much power to begin with. But for what it was worth, riding away in this event had finally brought substantial results. After 20 laps, I had gathered enough money and retired from the racetrack. On my way back home, it looks like having a chassis of a car moving with nothing was illegal. Yep, totally that instead of the fact that I was ripping through the streets on at least twice the speed limit on the wrong lane. I thought I could just outrun them like the last time, and for a while, I did. Until I got pit maneuvered and suffered catastrophic damages. Good thing insurances are a thing in Belasco, huh? So, I parked the car at the garage and decided to escape the police by foot. I leaped over the undercover unit and baited the officer back through the narrow path. As a result, he failed to safely re-enter, or re-entering at all. I was so certain that cop was out of options. I was browsing through options to purchase this property mid-pursuit, but none of them appealed to me. So, to clear my mind, I finished the car. Ladies and gentlemen, behold, the Ibishu Pessima, finally completed and upgraded with race tire brakes and tires for better handling and stopping power. With these on, I should no longer be suffering from brake fade. And this is where my genius was employed. I removed the license plate so the speed camera cannot figure out who I am, and thus unable to give me a speeding ticket. Sure, this means war with the Pelasco Police Department, but as you had seen, I literally escaped one on foot. So yeah, bring it on. To top it all off, I paid the rest of my dues and broke free from the ever-compounding bank loans. In celebration, I attended a car meet, which was held on top of a parking area. On the way there, I found some haters that were trying to ruin my sedan's debut to the world. Well, you know what they say, having haters is a sign you got big. Anyways, the haters were easily brushed off by doing nothing, and I got to meet the other car enthusiasts on the top of the parking area. Guys, what are you doing? The exit is over there. Definitely not where you're going. Hello? Hey! Yeah, they have lost the plot. Come on, let's just go. After a little bit of meet and greet, we decided to cruise around. Now, logically, being in the back of the group would be safer, as I didn't have to worry about others ramming me from behind, while I still could track their movements. That was supposed to be true, until this absolute thunderhead rammed an innocent daily driver on his pursuit to catch up with the group leader. Of course, with him going absolutely ballistic in what's supposed to be a chill event, I followed suit, trying to remain within the script. On the bridge, however, this absolute dimwit tried crushing the police car. On speeds like that, I couldn't brake fast enough and rammed onto him, resulting in my car cosplaying as Two-Face. I had enough of this maniac. So, I overtook him under the tunnel and went on my way to the destination marked on the GPS. And once we had arrived, we chilled for a bit, took the scenery in, and that's it. Event over. Well, who knew this supposedly relaxing cruise had been turned into a chase session? I certainly didn't, and I certainly didn't think my car would be grievously damaged from a car meet, of all things. On my way home, I was met with yet more detractors. Too bad for them, keeping up with a slightly modified sedan was too much for them. I weaved through the lot of them on a bridge and thought to just power over the undercover agent. Unfortunately, he acted better than his peers and did try to stop me. Fortunately, he missed the wheels, so I managed to run and refuel big chase. So far, no one seemed to be after me. Did they think they got me or something? Well, I didn't get any money from selling dash cams. They must have found me while I was refueling. Good to know, I suppose. Even after that, the anti-streaks faction kept their vigilance. But once I arrived home, it was so over for them. How are you failing to catch a runner on foot? You're in muscle cars. What's stopping all y'all from just catching up and surround me? Look at him, he's stuck. And that's it. A grand to my account. And this absolute fool was just parked in the alleyway, left to ponder his future. I figured to finance the garage as I need a permanent spot for my car and myself. Also, this would be necessary if I were to buy a second car, preferably a rear-wheel drive. So, after offending the garage owner with maximum haggling, I opted to finance the garage. And now, technically, Chinatown Garage belongs to me. All I need to do then is to outpace the scheduled payments. That means it was a good time to actually test the upgrades I made to the car on the racetrack. So, I returned to the grind spot and started the event. Well, the car still has a slow start, but it is not how you start, it's always how you finish. On the first corner, I figured to take the inner lane. It could have worked if I didn't climb the curbs and cause the car to bounce. On the next few checkpoints, I relied on throttle control to keep the car smooth as it drives across the track. This time, the racing tires helped in solving the car's understeer issue. Well, most of it, given the car's drivetrain. And with super racing brakes, I no longer suffer from brake fade. Although, with how tilted my car was with each brake, maybe racing tire brakes were too much. But for what it was worth, this car was finally ready. I ensured the car to remain on the innermost lane throughout the hairpin and thought I could just take on the next corner flat out, only to be reminded of the car's inherent understeering nature. On the corkscrew, I fared a bit better, since in slow corners like these, I don't just charge along like a meathead, but rather use careful methods to make my way through. The first lap was definitely not my personal best, and for completing it this way, I was awarded much less than a grand. I have to be honest, that's quite a shock, given how much I earned the last time. Not only that, but racing with this updated grip and braking felt like relearning to walk. I have to unlearn a few things I picked up driving the rickety version of this car. This car drove nothing like its previous iteration. Tighter grip, stronger brakes, perhaps too strong. I had to adjust my braking points. How hard should I turn the wheel? Or whether I can just outright flat out on some sections, which was impossible previously. However, I kept on racing, and by lap 5, I got my touchback. I harmonized with the Pasima, and this was reflected in the records. Not only that, the payouts returned to familiar territory too. As I scored more laps in the session, I became more and more ambitious in creating faster and faster laps, even resulting in almost tipping the car over on the hairpin. It was a good thing I got this car back on 4 wheels though, or that would be yet another hefty insurance claim. Unfortunately, on the very same lap, I messed up on the corkscrew. The hard bump had damaged the axles, causing my car to turn right on its own. I cannot properly race like this. So, I made my way back and had it repaired. After all those sessions on the track, avoiding so many officers and blatantly declaring war on Velasco's finest by not consenting towards being fined, I had gone from absolutely nothing to 32 grand in hand, a finance garage, and a souped-up Ibishu Pessima. So, what do you think? How was my journey in BeamNG? We rose from ashes and will not stop until we own all the properties the city has to offer. This chapter is just the beginning of our long journey. If you like this one, please check out the time I tried to beat Gran Turismo 4 with just V8 cars. Or if you like BeamNG, check out when I tried to escape a city full of angry mobs with an original minivan. Or if you're interested in what I do in general, check out my channel. You'll like it.